But before we begin the session, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you'll never miss any update from us.
Okay, so we're going to discuss first about repos, Azure Repos, what it is. So Azure Repos provide a Git repositories or team foundation version control for source control of your code. Like as I mentioned, Azure Repos is work exactly same as GitHub or Bitbucket, like for storing the repository. Now let us move to our project. So we have created this organization, and this is how your project, I mean, if you haven't created, we can create. I can name it as my e-commerce e-com project. Okay, this is my project name on which I'm working. Let's click on um, create project. Okay, so this is my project which I created. It's a new project, nothing is there. So on the left hand side you will be seeing a repos, that is the code, where is your code storing up. So if you click on this repository, this is a place where your code will be storing up. Okay, now I mean, I can just let us just initialize this repository, meaning I want to add some files in this. So I'm initializing this. You just need to click on initialize so that it will add some sample folder. So in this sample folder, I mean, what we can do, I mean, we can just simply add a new file. Let us add a new file name as, let's say, I'm a Python developer, let's say, and I'm adding some python.py file. So what it is just a it's just a code. I mean, it's just a code which I'm writing, like import, let's say, math, and let's simply do some a equal to okay, sum equal to a plus b. I mean, like simple code. I mean, simple thing I'm writing, right? uh, so just to show you that how it works, enter a and b like that, enter a and likewise b equal to input, enter b like that. So it's my code, right? And I do a commit. So that code has been checked in to my environment, right? And now I can create a pipeline to build this code, right? So this is a place, what my motto is to tell you, this is a place where your code lives. Okay, that's what Azure Repos is all about. So see, whether you talk about Bitbucket, Git, or any, so all those are based on Git, right? Git repositories. So these are a Git only. So version control is Git, right? So Bitbucket and all or GitHub is just a provider, but the version control is Git. Likewise, Azure Repos is a provider. I mean, where your code lives, but the version control, it is based on Git, right? So I mean, now what I'm going to show you, uh, I mean, let us import the repository, sample GitHub repository. I'm going to tell you, I mean, something that how we're going to, I mean, how actually we're going to work on this. So let's say this is my GitHub repository. So what I'm going to import it to my Azure Repos, that is in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to this place and click on import repository, click on the import, provide the URL, and just click on import and copy. So I'm just copying the open source repository and click on import. So see how, I mean, it's how simple it is. It is just cloning the repository, right? So let's say if someone wants to import from GitHub or migrate from GitHub to Azure Repos, so that's how they do. It's like, I mean, there is other way to do an upload file, but that is a very tedious job. In this, if you do import and all the histories will be coming up. So this guy did some check-ins on August 16. If you go in the GitHub and I mean see the history and all, he did all the history will be coming up. The same history is coming up in here. So but if you do upload like this, all those things will not be coming up, right? So it's a very good way. So that's just a I'm just telling that's what the use of this repo in this session. Okay, that's what Azure Repose is. Other part we have is Azure Pipelines. So on the right hand side, you can see the image. Basically, Azure Pipelines provides build and release kind of setup. Like, first understand what build is and what release is. See, build basically means, I'll take you to the pipelines now. This is my pipeline. I'll click on pipeline. It will be empty because it's my new project, right? I'll click on create pipeline. So it is a build pipeline. See, when you have a code, when you're writing a code, let's say I'm a .NET developer, I'm writing .NET code. So I cannot just deploy that .NET code to the environment, right? I need to first compile it. I need to first build, compile, flash, build, all are same words. So as to create some binaries, the DLLs, right? Then only I can deploy, that is a release. So build means that converting of the code into a machine language, binaries. That is a build in simple terms. If you don't understand this thing, what a build is, please ask me, because it's we're gonna use this many times. So build basically means that I'm compiling the code. I'm compiling the, if you're a Java guy, okay, let's say I'm a Java developer, I'm writing some Java files and all. So I will use some compilers like Maven or Ant is a compilers to compile the code to make it into a machine language. And once I have those binaries, jar files, war files are the binaries, then I will deploy. That is a release pipeline. So that's how it is. So let us create a very basic pipeline. I'm going to show you. Create a pipeline. I'm using classic editor. So if you see in the end, use classic editor. Just select that first, use classic editor. And in here, select your repository. Basically, it is asking, hey, where is your code? Is in Azure Repose or a GitHub or where? I mean, if your code is using Bitbucket, then you can use that, or GitHub, you can use that. See, if I use a GitHub, it will ask me to authenticate, because again, GitHub is a third-party product for Azure DevOps, right? Even if you use Bitbucket, again, it will ask you the authentication. For all tools, it will ask you for setup, because Azure DevOps don't know where is your code and all, right? But for Azure Repos, as it's in here, okay, so in Azure Repos Git, I have this repository. We just now created this, right? Project sample e-commerce project, and click on continue. Here, select an empty job, because I'm not gonna do add or any of the task here. Just select an empty job for now. So this is how your pipeline will look like. Okay, and here you can add a task. So my first motto is to build the pipeline, right? So for that, I'm going to use this MS build. If you know, if you're a .NET guy, you must know that MS build is a compiler to compile the code. If I use this code to compile it, then my .NET files will be converted to binaries, and then that binaries can, or machine language can now be used to deploy to my virtual machine or app service or wherever. So that is a build, and throwing of the code is known as release. That is which we will do here. CI means continuous integration. That is, I was telling you, right? Whenever you do a commit in this place, your pipeline should trigger automatically. If you, if you want that automatic deployments, right? So that's how it is. So fine. So the next part I want to discuss is Azure Boards. What Azure Boards is? So Azure Boards is a place where you will plan things. I mean, if you worked on some agile and all, then you can easily understand what I will be trying to say now. That in an agile company, you will first plan the task. That hey, this task will be done by that guy, or this task will be done by this QA. So those planning is can be done in the Azure boards, like creating of the task. I'm going to show you. I'll go to the boards now, and we'll create a work item. So what are work items? Work item is a task. which you will create for your developers or a QAs, so that they will start working on it. Let us create a task. So I'll create a task, or let's say add a button. I'm just telling, right? It's my e-commerce project, or add a payment gateway, right? And I'll assign to this guy. So this guy needs to work on it, and right. So this guy will be working on it. So this is a task which we are doing a planning kind of thing, right? So, and other part you will see a boards here. So so let's add item. Basically it's a kind of a planning kind of thing, right? So usually when we sit in a meeting room, in a whiteboard, we used to do a planning kind of thing, right? Hey, this work item or this task, let's say I'm adding a create add a button kind of thing. So basically currently it's a to do state. So when I'm doing it, I'll push it into the doing state. So what I'm trying to say here is that this kind of a Kanban, this is a Kanban board. If you don't know what Kanban board is, I'm gonna just show you Kanban board, just image that how organization in organization it will look like. So if you're able to see this, like in a agile companies, that's how they used to create in a whiteboard, they used to create this thing, and they will move this sticky notes. So they're gonna see the sticky notes, and they will move this sticky notes from when it's in progress state to in from to do state to the in progress, and then to testing, and then to done. So that's how in a live environment they do. So in the Kanban board in Azure boards, it's kind of a same setup which we are seeing here, right? So this will help us to plan in a better way. So this is just for planning and all, right? I mean, it's not but it's a very useful. I mean, I have seen organizations or companies using 20,000, 30,000 of the work, and this play a very important role in build or in releasing software faster. Because see, if let's say your manager sees this and they're saying, hey, it is still in doing state, what this guy is doing, so he can simply mail him, hey, any of this guy, any update. So it's a very collaborative kind of tool. So this guy will get a mail notification that, hey, please update, what's the status. So I don't need to ping this guy or and all. So that's why I'm telling, reducing the gap. You try to understand things. It is a it's just reducing the gap. Though it look a very small thing. Hey, I mean, it's just a comment and all, but it's a way of it's a way of telling that, hey, this work is not done and all. You can you can link your repositories here as well. Like if you are developing something, so for example, we have imported this repository, right? Sometime back we imported this repository. Sorry, I need to. So sometime we have integrated it. So see, this is a repository which I can now easily linked with this code. If you click this, it will redirect me to the repository, because now this is a way of how things can linked with each and everything, right? So if this guy is working on this project or this code, he can link it and see what's the thing he's doing, right? So that's how useful it is. So that's a very brief of Azure boards. We're going to discuss in very detail what it is all about. The Azure test plans and Azure artifacts are very small topics, not that big. Okay, Azure test plans. So test plans are basically which help you to create some, basically only for QAs, to create some test cases. On the right hand side you see test suites, so that they can test the application, right? Mainly it is a manual test and automation, both are there. Okay, both tests you can write it. For automation you will need some coding and all, but for manual test also this thing will help you to test your application. So if we go here, go to the, I mean, I'll not show this project because it don't have anything. So I'll go to my other project which have something. Yeah, this one has something. So I'll go this project. So in this, we're gonna open this project. And if you go to the test plans, so here you see I have written a lot of test. I mean, it's just a work only. I mean, work item itself. So this is how you will write the test cases. I mean, what's a test? I mean, test this, test this. This is a manual way. Automation also is there, which we're gonna learn. But it's a very smaller topic, that how you are writing the test, how many pass result you have. See, out of 100%, I have 66% pass report. 34% of my results got failed, right? So that's how it works. uh, I mean, the test cases and all, and based on that, based on these tests, you will, I mean, your management can tell that, hey, I mean, how much load test or how much penetration test or whatever the test type it is, your application can bear, right? Based on this information, based on these progress reports. DevOps job is creating a Jenkins pipeline, deploy, what else? So this is a very big part. You mentioned pipelines, building, deploying infra and all. It's a very big task. What else you are asking? Because so the else thing is in the repos. The work comes in the repos. If you go to the repos, I mean, I'll show you that project itself. If you go to the repos, see, I have many branches, right? Many branches. So I mean, sorry, many repositories. Under those repositories, I will have many branches. So so to create the branches, to create the branch policies, right? If you I mean, if you see here, we can have the branch policies. Which repository will follow which branch policies, right? Those kind of configurations we used to do. And how to automate these things whenever, let's say, after some amount of time they should delete the branch, right? So those kind of things we have a lot of APIs in Azure DevOps. How you can create programmatically things. So let's say if a pull request is there, and if some pull request have some conflicts, how you gonna resolve it? So the activity which we do, right, it's majorly pipeline, but there are a lot of chunk of amount we do in repos, in boards as well. You know, in boards as well, we can do a lot of customizations, which we're gonna see. So those kind of things, I mean, it's like a very big thing. So pipelines, main pipeline got failed, why it got failed, so those kind of tasks as well. So I mean, the artifact which I haven't discussed, push some artifacts in this. So let us understand what artifacts is first. So let me take you to here. So Azure Artifact allow team to share Maven npm NuGet packages from a public and private sources and integrate package sharing into your CI/CD pipelines. So so basically packages. I mean, if I have to take you to the let's say, remove this page, close. Okay. Now if I have to take you to the NuGet, so I'm taking you some open source gallery, which is for NuGet. So these are the packages you are seeing. Okay, NuGet packages in here. There are around 3 lakh packages. So what are these? See, these packages will, I mean, these packages will, I mean, it will help your code. I mean, these packages, your code will consume in your pipeline. For example, if I have to show you, I mean, let me show you, because then only you will be able to understand more. So here, I'll go to the, let's say, NuGet. So you see, I'm in the NuGet restore, and this is a NuGet repository. I mean, NuGet package thing, right? So I'm using this task, and here I'm using a feed. Feed I select, feed I select. So so when you publish a package, so package is a thing, or a package is a, I mean, you say reference in simple terms, or dependency in simple terms, a dependency which is required to build your code. For example, for example, we when you write a code and all, right, so you used to use so many references or dependencies to build the code, correct? I mean, if you don't use those, your code may not be able to build. Likewise, we need to sometime restore those dependencies and packages while building the code. So how it will work, like I will tell you, MS Build is used for .NET, so I'm using this. So I'll first restore this packages which is in my feed I select. Currently I don't have any feed. I mean, yeah, oh, this is the feed. So this is the place, I mean, let's say this is my feed. Under this feed, all those packages, these packages you are seeing, my libraries and you get, will be getting restored if I use this a restore task. And then those packages will be easily used in my MS Build. So why we use this NuGet packages and all? I mean, the simple answer for that is security. See, I can use this NuGet org as well. If you see in my code, I mean, in this, here it is telling feeds in my NuGet, I mean, config file, which is your code. But the problem here is, if you use this open source NuGet, there are chances of some open source vulnerabilities. There are chances because it's a public thing. So how companies they do, they first install these packages, test it on their environment, and then push it here, and then after restoring it, they use it like this. This is basically dependencies which your code may require in order to build the code. If you don't provide these, if you don't restore it, your code may not build it. Though you can use it from outside, that is outside public repository, which is this, but it is not that much secure and all. I mean, usually when you deploying things and all, you always prefer to use internal things. So they will first publish these packages which I'm showing to you here in the artifacts, and then restore it before building, so that it will directly consume those dependencies and build the code without an issue. So so for Azure artifacts is nothing but I mean, the thing, I mean, to upload your packages, to push your packages, like here you have a many packages like NuGet, .NET, Visual Studio, NPM, which you can push to the Azure artifact and then simply use this task to restore it. Now you can restore it from this place as well, but usually companies won't do this because it's again third party. They first download it, test it on their environment local. After testing it, they have a trust, then they follow this step to push it. We're gonna see how to push it a npm package and a nugget package when we do the demos. Okay, so that's how it is. Like, what is Azure DevOps Services and Azure DevOps Server? The thing which we have discussed, which is Azure DevOps Services, that is on over the cloud, as I told you, as SaaS product, software as a service, managed by Microsoft Azure, right? So this is Azure. If you see the URL as well, dev.azure.com and all, which is not us, it's managed by Microsoft Azure. But we do have one more software called as Azure DevOps Server, which is a on-premises, and it will look like something like this. It's Azure DevOps Server, which I have configured on my machine. So usually, if you are not willing to share, or I mean, because see, when you are doing a commit in the repos, what we are doing, we are storing this code over the Azure. I mean, Azure DevOps is hosted on Azure, right? We selected which region. But if your company is not willing to share the data to the cloud, then you're gonna use Azure DevOps Server. All the functionality will remains the same. But the thing is, you will maintain the server on your machine, on your data center. It's your thing, it's your product. Meaning, any of the server, SQL Server, if you install on your data center, it's yours, right? You are responsible for patches. You are responsible for upgrades. So usually the government organization, banks, they don't use this Azure DevOps services. They are not willing to share the data over the cloud. They use Azure DevOps Server, which is installed on my machines. And I will be having Azure DevOps administrator who is managing those things. I mean, upgrade and all those patches and all, right? So Azure DevOps Services is the cloud offering, while Azure DevOps Server is an on-premises offering, right? And with Azure DevOps Server, we used to use a SQL Server. And in the SQL Server, the data will be stored. See, and Azure DevOps Services is a cloud as a SaaS, software as a service. So you don't need to maintain the data and all. But with Azure DevOps Server, we need to install SQL Server as well to store the data. Though it is not that relevant, it's just an extra knowledge I'm sharing. It won't be much asked in your exam and all. Okay, I just want to understand you. I'm just giving you some data to understand things. Server is on-premises, service is the cloud. Usually, Azure DevOps is backed by 99.9% SLA. Okay, but for Azure DevOps Server, it's I or the company is responsible for that. Because if the data is on their company data center, then how Microsoft will responsible for the SLA and all, right? They're managing it. They will just give the software to the company and they will manage or maintain that, right? So that's how it is. Usually banks and the government organization uses this server. They will, if let's say outage happen on the on premises, then Microsoft Azure DevOps will not help you. No one can help you. It's your data center which go down. But if an outage happened in Azure DevOps cloud, then Microsoft will be responsible, right? Because on server they will not be sharing the data. Anything will not be shared because servers SQL. But in that case, you need to purchase Azure DevOps Server, SQL Server, because both has a different. SQL Server is a separate tool, Azure DevOps is a separate tool, right? Licensing cost will be there. So so that's how it is. So I mean, and you need to hire one guy, Azure DevOps team admin, to maintain those things, because patches, upgradation, right? Every for some time they will release some security patch and all. You need to install that on Azure DevOps Server. So if you can take that thing, then only companies is going with this. But usually I've seen they are using services. Yep. So that's how it is.
Just a quick info, guys. If you want to make a career in cloud computing, then Intellipaat provides an advanced certification on cloud and DevOps by IIT Madras. This course is taught by industry experts and IIT Madras faculty. This course is designed to upskill and land your dream job.